dry season. Yeah, it's a good time of year. It's always hot, isn't it, in Darwin, but it's either dry or wet to go with it.
Thanks, Chad. Handing over to me to hand back to you. Yeah, no, I'd just like to welcome Chad here today, sharing on Moodle and the cloud. And for those who don't know, Chad's very much involved in the whole Moodle community. You can see the photo there with his Moodle shirt on, which was from the Brisbane Moodle Moot 2008, I think it was, if I've got that right, which Chad organised at the school he was working at then. And as we work kind of together, we see each other around the community and that, and everyone has quite a lot of respect for Chad and the work that he does. So it's just a real pleasure and honour to have him here today, sharing on this. So Chad, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Shane, and good morning or good afternoon, good evening, Moodlers, wherever you're tapping in from, Moodlers and iMooters. How fun is this conference? Moodle in the cloud. Look, we've got a fair bit of time today with this session, but I reckon based on the first run through, we'll hardly need 60 minutes, and we're going to make it fairly intense and hands-on. So how's that? So Moodle in the cloud, and more in particular, the repositories plugins for Moodle version 2. So great to meet you virtually speaking. That's better. Okay, now I'll just pick that up. Now what I might in fact do, okay, I'll just reduce the zoom on this, just bear with me for a moment. Okay. Better. Look, in terms of where we're heading, just mapping out the next 60 minutes or so, as far as the cloud's concerned, there's been a lot of buzz, a lot of hype in terms of this thing called the cloud. What is it? What's it going to mean for us as Moodlers and educators working in the online space? How can we harness it to optimise and add value to learning outcomes in our organisations? We'll explore some of that. Hand in hand with that conversation is the notion of this new feature in Moodle version 2. It's called the repository, Moodle repository plugins. In essence, it's our interface with the cloud, and it makes it easy for us as Moodle users to share our content and media from third-party sites and services. Okay, and that's what the web's all about. It's about us, and it's about sharing, exchanging, collaborating, and so forth. So, in essence, I'm really excited by Moodle repositories, and if there was one strong reason to upgrade to Moodle 2, I reckon it was repositories from a personal standpoint. We'll demonstrate repositories, how we configure it, how we enable it, and more importantly, how you as teachers and end users, harness it in your online courses. Okay, and we'll make it fairly hands-on. So we'll use a live iMoot course, the one that you more or less logged into now and tapped into this live virtual session, and get your hands dirty with it. If you haven't in fact already used it, and certainly time for questions as we go along. If you want to drop something in the chat window, that's fine. Or else, as I said, I think time's on our side. We can leave some room at the end. No problem there. All right, maybe just a quick straw poll. There's not many of us here, so I won't bother with putting up a formal poll as such. But if you want to drop some sort of indication in the chat pod there for me, which of these sites or services have you used this month? Google Docs, YouTube, Flickr. So there's 3 of them there, just as examples of cloud-based services. Which have you used? If you want to say 1 or 2 or 3 in particular, or you might want to say 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3, or maybe none of the above. I'll give you 30 seconds just to drop something in the chat area there. Now, think to yourself, well, personally, Google Docs, I'm using it every other day, and YouTube, if not for entertainment purposes, maybe for work-related purposes, training tutorials, and the like. Which sites or services are you using? Okay, so having thought about that, I guess the key essence is the notion that these sites and services, they're popularizing. They are cloud-based, whether we appreciate that or not really is important. I guess the key essence here is that its data and software is stored on the internet. It's up in the cloud, and it's not necessarily living locally on our computers or local area networks. That's kind of where we're heading. Okay, so the idea of the cloud, it's the perfect metaphor for the internet. It's often used to depict the internet in computer network diagrams, as a matter of fact. So as a concept, a computing concept, it's service delivery, so sharing resources, software information, and it's provided to user devices via the internet. So if I had to draw you a diagram, it'd look something like this. So the cloud containing applications, information and services. And they can include things such as documents, spreadsheets, presentations, email, calendaring, contacts, and so forth. So the applications and information services, they're built upon web-based technologies and infrastructures, and we as users send and receive information to and from the cloud via various devices. So they could be desktop computers or laptops, or in the modern age, we're becoming more portable with our learning, so mobile devices and tablets and so forth as well. So the benefits of the cloud are fairly obvious to many organisations, or becoming obvious. There's greater economies of scale. They can reduce their IT operational costs, improve scalability as far as infrastructure and architecture is concerned, and there's better redundancy in terms of hardware and data as well. So there are a few of the key benefits of the cloud. As I said, as part of this conversation is this thing known as Moodle repositories. It's how Moodle connects to the cloud or cloud-based services. And just for your information, the feature became available early in 2011 with Moodle, with the release of Moodle 2. Okay, so if you're using an earlier version, such as 1.8, 1.9, you won't have this feature at this point. Just bear that in mind. There might be other ways you can tap into the cloud, but the repositories plugin or the repository plugins make it easier. They make the process more streamlined for users to share content and media from the cloud via Moodle. All right. So in Moodle 2, users are no longer limited to basic file uploads from their computer or local area network or a USB disk for that example. The key thing here, and we'll demonstrate this shortly, so you're okay with it. Your Moodle administrator must first enable and configure the repository plugins, okay, so that teachers and students are able to make use of it. The file picker, it's the new metaphor for sharing content and media in Moodle. So anywhere we see this thing in a short while, the thing being a HTML editor, it's a new version for Moodle 2, you'll be able to insert images and video or audio files. And up will pop a new window, it's a file picker. So you select your source, as we'll see in a short while, where you can insert an image, a media, or if not using the HTML editor, there's a button there where you can add or attach files in certain situations. So we'll see this very shortly, and it will become very obvious that you can more or less tap into the cloud in Moodle 2 from just about anywhere. Your user profile, discussion forums, quizzes, blogs, wikis, you name it. So it's a little bit like this. Let's think of Moodle as at the center of the universe, which it just about is for us as online educators. And well, at least now we've got all of these cloud-based services and systems pointing at it. We can potentially share or import or copy content media from these various sites. Just quickly, in case you're not familiar with all of them there on that slide, Alfresco is an enterprise standard and open source content management system. Amazon, Boxnet, Dropbox, they're all storage solutions, cloud-based. Flickr and Picasa are photo sharing sites. Google Docs is used for online sharing and collaboration with documents, presentations, spreadsheets, videos, and so forth. Wikimedia, it's a sister project of Wikipedia, and it is a massive multimedia library and many of the millions of objects, many of which are shared under Creative Commons license. So it's a good place to explore if you're not familiar with it. And YouTube, the world's most popular video sharing service. So the arrows are pointing inward, as you can see there. When we've got our Moodle configured, we can essentially pull in the content from these sites and services very, very quickly and easily. It's noteworthy that we can also push or export content and media from Moodle in certain situations to some of these sites and services. That's via the portfolio plugins, okay? And perhaps that's a conversation for another day. All right, I reckon we're just about ready to launch into a demo. I'm going to quit out of this Prezzo for the time being, and I'll share my screen. So just bear with me for a moment. And please chat as we do, as we're getting along there. Trish mentioning the Google Docs, but they're all now blocked from her work. Yeah, you see that sometimes. It's really disappointing when organisations are really anti the internet, if you like, be it YouTube, Flickr, Facebook, and the like. If we can harness these sort of sites and services for the purpose of effective online learning, why not? All right, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, I should be coming through to you now. Yep, I'm completely with you, Gavin, and good to see you. Welcome. Okay, can someone just confirm, please, that I'm coming through pretty well? I'm mindful of, thank you, I'm mindful we're on different sort of setups and resolutions and whatnot. That's brilliant. Thank you kindly, and g'day. All right, now if you haven't already, and I'm presuming you're here as a matter of fact because you found your way into this virtual session, just if you could stay logged into our iMoot course space for Moodle in the cloud. It's course ID 346 if that helps. So just have that window in your back pocket if you could. I'm just going to toggle to another tab. Don't get confused. So I can demonstrate a couple of things to you via a local instance. I might bump that font up a couple. Reason I'm doing this here is because I don't have admin capabilities or permissions on the iMoot site. So I'll just demonstrate a couple of things quickly here on a local plain vanilla install, Moodle 2.2. So look, through the eyes of an admin, I'm logged into front page of a Moodle. I go to the settings block, site administration, plugins, repositories, manage repositories. Okay, as I was saying there earlier, you or your Moodle administrator needs to enable and configure the repository plugins you wish to make use of. Okay, by default, I believe there's at least 4 that are enabled and visible: server files, recent files, upload a file, and private files. Okay, the others can be enabled and configured. In fact, many of them look as though they've been done already in this case. I'll just explain the process in any case, so that when the time comes, you know exactly what you need to do. For some of these that aren't enabled by default, it's simply a case of turning them on and they should be good to go. For several of them, however, you will need to add at least a key or a set of keys from that cloud-based service to make use of it. So I'll give an example. Let's say with Flickr, we'll disable it. So I come back to this page and Flickr is disabled at the bottom. So we would come in, or our Moodle administrator comes in and enables it and makes it visible. What we need to do, and we've got some instructions here in the case of Flickr, it's fairly straightforward. We need to go to Flickr and get a public and a private key. So I'll just open that in a new tab and sort of show you what's involved here very quickly. And it's a similar process for the other cloud-based services as well, right? Be it Amazon and the like. All right, so look, we'll just say Moodle, Moodle 2.2 repo, and they're asking, what are we building? This is a non-commercial license we're asking Flickr for, and we'll say Flickr go for Moodle, and you agree to their T's and C's, though I doubt many of us bother to read those. Submit. So Flickr then gives us the API keys. So we copy the first one there carefully to our clipboard. That's the public key. So we come back to Moodle, drop it in there, and we'll grab the second one as well. The private key or the secret key. Great. And just make sure there's no blank spaces at the end. That can be a bit of a gotcha. So that is now enabled and visible, and it should be good to go. The only other thing to bear in mind is the order of the plugins. You can reorder them, move them up or down using the arrows, and all that will do is, I guess, change the sort when you're using the file picker and the time comes and you're trying to add content or media from these sites and services and plugging it into Moodle. All right, so if you want something more visible, perhaps move it toward the top. So that's in essence what's involved in configuring the repositories. What I'll do now is toggle back to where we were, and I'll show you this in action. I think the way this will work is if I perhaps just in one situation demonstrate what's involved to make use of the plugins. For the eyes of either, let's say, a teacher or a student, and then I'll give you some time to explore that yourself. Okay, now I think the forum's a pretty good place to do it, as a matter of fact. If I find my way in there, in our iMoot course, I think discussion forums, they're really the bread and butter of online learning. They're part of the staple diet. They really are. So we've got to have them, and I think it's no surprise that every Moodle course that we create, every new course, gets one learning object as a starting point, and it's a discussion forum. So I'll start a new topic. And I'll just say Moodle repo test. Here's the subject and the message. I'll just say hello world. All right, now for those unfamiliar with Moodle version 2, one of the many new features we get is a new HTML editor. It's similar but different. A couple of the features that are important for us using the repository plugins are in the bottom row here. We've got this sort of tree-looking icon where we're able to insert images. And to the right, we've got a film strip looking icon for Moodle Media. So that's for video in particular, audio and applets as well. So we'll look at those. There are our two options in the HTML editor. And thirdly, wherever we're able to add a file throughout Moodle, be it as an attachment, say to a forum, or as an assignment submission, for example, and other places such as glossaries and databases and wikis and blogs, etc. When we can add an attached file, we can also tap into the repository. So I'll show you the 3 use case scenarios just now. Okay, so insert an image for starters. So we get presented with this window here. If we know the image URL, we could type it straight in, put a description, and we get a preview before we insert it into the message. But let's say we want to find or upload an image. This is in fact a big rectangular button. Okay, I'll click it, and we get this thing I was referring to before, the file picker that pops up. So as I said, this is the new metaphor for sharing content and media in Moodle version 2. So the 4 suspects at the top, as I said, enabled by default: server files, recent files. Moodle knows who you are and what files you've been adding or using recently. You can upload a file. That's more or less like the old school traditional method where you'll browse your computer or local area network or a local disk or drive, find a file and upload it. Private files, that's a new function in Moodle, where you can put files aside in Moodle for a rainy day and use them when appropriate, maybe as an attachment in a forum or for an assignment submission. But we can see these others here that are of interest to us. Flickr, we've got Flickr Public, so that would be for anyone who wants to access or share or use a publicly available Flickr image. The second Flickr option, I believe, would be, it would require the said user to have an account and a login to Flickr to get to their photos to be able to share them with others. So look, Flickr Public, let's say, I click it, and then we get some options here. Full text, tag, you could also, if you want to put in your Flickr account, and then some other filters about want to be able to use images commercially, or you want to be able to modify the images, right? Let me just keyword search. When I'm not moodling, I'm generally chasing a little white golf ball around a course. So I'll type in golf, see what it brings us. Oh, we got some cars as well. It wasn't a great search, as a matter of fact. You ask good questions, you get good answers. Let's put it that way. But I will put in this image here. We can link to the external image, or we can select a file and in essence copy it into our Moodle. So we've got it there. I'll put an image description as well. We've got a preview. Appearance. If you wanted to adjust the alignment or the dimensions, spacing and so forth, you could, and there's some more advanced parameters on the 3rd tab across the top. Okay. I'd bear in mind, not just for Flickr, but for YouTube and these other cloud-based services, we've got to be mindful of intellectual property and ownership. And if you don't own, the content or the media, I think it's fair to say you need express permission, or you've got the right sort of license to be able to share it. Creative Commons is a pretty safe bet, but if something's under copyright, and it's in the public domain, you need to be fairly comfortable and clear that you've got permission to use it. So look, I'll just insert the image. That's good to go. It comes straight into our message. I'll just go down on the next line. I'll show you the process for inserting Moodle media. So that's the film strip icon in your HTML editor. The dialog is a little bit different. It now says find or upload a sound, video or applet. So I click that, we get presented again with the file picker. It does look different. There's no flicker this time. As far as media goes, it discounts images, I believe, and we've got, well, YouTube. It knows we may be looking for videos. And the iMoot site has been, in fact, configured for this repository plugin. We can keyword search again, and we can also sort by relevance, date, rating, or view count. So again, I'll just keyword search golf and see what it brings us. Top 10 golfing tantrums. Okay. All rights reserved. Well, I'm not the author, so as I said, it would be useful to find out who it is, but perhaps Creative Commons or public domain. Insert. Now, the video doesn't present itself in a player at this point. There's just a text, I guess a text link there. You'll see when we do save this message that it does in fact display. So there's the first two options. Your third option is this, when you're adding a file like an attachment. We click add, a file picker pops up. In this case, we do have Google Docs as an option. So this would require you to have a GDocs account. So I could then come in and select a file, like so. Document, a presentation, a piece of media, something you've got up in that cloud-based repository, if you like. Now, it'd be the same process if this site had enabled BoxNet or Dropbox, for example. Okay, post a forum. So we'll have a quick look at this. So you can see there, we've got text, image, embedded media in the little player for the video, and we've got the file attached from GDocs as well. All right. And there's a couple options here. As I said before, we can export to portfolio. There's a little icon up here, and there's one down bottom right as well, if they've in fact been configured. As I said, over time, in forums, for example, if you've got lots of discussions, you could export the whole discussion as a file download, put it into GDocs or Mahara, the ePortfolio system. So as I said, not just importing or pulling content and media from the cloud, but also pushing or exporting it out from Moodle to those sites and services. So it's a two-way street. All right, I think it's time for me to have a little pause, and I'm going to give you perhaps 5 minutes or so if you would like to have a go with this. So I've demonstrated what's involved. I'm going to pass you the chalk, so to speak, and if you could find your way to our open session discussion and try one of those three things, either insert an image or a video from the cloud, or maybe if you've got a GDocs account, for example, just bring in a document presentation or something that you're comfortable sharing in that Moodle forum. So you can start your own post if you would like, your own discussion topic, or you can simply reply to one of the others. I don't mind. If I give you a few minutes to do that, and I'll just have a quick peek at the chat and see what is being said there in the interim. I'm just going to stop sharing momentarily too, so you can get a little bit of real estate back. And Q has just asked the question, are these available to student roles as a default? Yes, I believe so. That's the idea behind it. I guess with repositories, it's about everybody being able to share and collaborate and exchange resources and ideas. So yes, students do have access to these repositories as well by default. So certainly not the configuration or the activation, the enabling of them. That's an admin only sort of thing, but definitely teachers and students can tap into these plugins at a course level. Okay, so I'm going to keep an eye on the chat window, and in the interim also see what you're doing and how you're getting along with Moodle in the cloud. Let's going to check that for them. So have a go. Even you may or may not be familiar with the repositories. This is your chance to show off. I'm just going to drop a link to the forum in the chat area so you know exactly where you need to post. And if you're not comfortable with posting to the forum, we completely respect that as well. If you want to sit back, that's okay. Or just drop a few ideas or comments in the chat pod in the next couple of minutes. And what you can do in any case, you can browse the discussions that have been put already in that forum and see some examples from yesterday, as a matter of fact, where attendees had a bit of a go at attaching an image or attaching a video or embedding, as a matter of fact. Okay, Laurie's not quite sure where we're posting. Just above, well, I've just provided a link in the chat pod just prior to your message, but we are in the Moodle course. Laurie's coffee machine was too loud. You're grinding beans or something there, Laurie. So just to clarify where we are in our iMoot course. Stream B session 19, Moodle in the cloud, and partway down the course page in the presenters content area, there is an open session discussion forum. So anywhere in there, as I said, you can reply to my post that I demonstrated a bit back, or you can start your own discussion topic. And thank you, I can see a few responses rolling through. Nice job, Trish. Very good. Yeah, that was easy, wasn't it? Just confirm for me, Trish, in the chat area. The idea is this is easy, as I said. Maybe in Moodle 1918 you could do. There are some cheeky ways to embed Google code, or content or media from some of these other sites and services, but I'm pretty confident in Moodle 2, it's a pretty smooth and streamlined process. It's fairly straightforward. And Trish has confirmed the fact. No worries. Bill's job's getting in the way of him having fun. Isn't it always the way? But yeah, I figured that, depending what time zone you're in. Some of us, I'm sure, are sort of at our desk in the office, and we've been, iMoot is a pleasant distraction from the normal work duties. So you're squeezing what time you can, or you're multitasking, as we all do. Laurie's just saying that when she opened the file picker, the image from my post was covering it. That doesn't sound right. Okay, no worries. So you just clicked and dragged it from underneath the image. Maybe that's what you did. Trigger happy. It's all that caffeine, Laurie. All right, people. iMooters, I'll give you a couple more minutes. If you haven't had a go already, please do in that forum. Post and insert an image, a video, or attach a file from a cloud-based service. Get comfortable with the file picker. Just see how easy it is. This might be the impetus you and your organization needs to upgrade to Moodle 2 if you're stuck on 1.8.19. Fantastic. All right. What I'm going to do is just push my screen back to you momentarily and show you a few other places where you can tap into repositories. As I said, it pretty much follows you wherever you can find the HTML editor or the add a file button. Okay, so I should be coming back to you momentarily. So thank you for your involvement there. Now, look, your user profile is an obvious place. I'll just come up to navigation block of DocMine top left, my profile, view profile. You can observe if you're comfortable with that, or you can be a couple of clicks behind me. I don't mind. And I'm mindful some of us have more screen real estate than others. When you've gone to your profile, you can go edit profile. So, as I said, wherever you see this HTML editor, you could, in essence, insert an image or Moodle media, such as a video or a sound file. I think a really creative way to, personalize your user profile would be to have like a little video introduction. So you could drop something in there to supplement the other information that you make available to your Moodlers. Same thing with choose a file, I believe. If we click that, we get the file picker. All right, so that's where, that's one example. I'll just go back a couple of clicks. Blogs. If you were to start blogging, if you're into reflecting or journaling publicly about your teaching and learning, you could add an entry about this course. Same thing in here. You'd give your blog a title and an entry. Image, insert the image, Moodle media, and attach a file. You could publish that to anyone on the site or just draft to yourself. So that would be another place. Turn editing on. So this is through the eyes of an editing teacher. You may not be able to do these next couple of things. Just bear that in mind. Not in the iMoot space. Certainly on your own Moodle 2 you're good. As a user with editing capabilities. So look, if we were to add a resource, a file, so I'll give the file a name. That's a file from repo short for repository, and you put in the mandatory description. So when you come down to select files, you go add. So you've got some options here. Again, Google Docs, Flickr. There's some, looks like some local area storage has been made available to video and podcast. So we could potentially go into official videos. select that file, and that's been added. Okay, so that's the process. Mindful in versions of Moodle earlier than Moodle 2. It's a fairly convoluted process to try and upload a file. It's pretty straightforward now with the file picker. As I said, the new metaphor for sharing content and media. So that's a file. As far as a page goes, again, it's a pretty obvious place for you to tap into content and media from third-party sites and services. So we'll just say page using repo, give it a description. And down in the page content, that's where we could insert an image. We'll see what we can find here. Session graphics, perhaps. I won't look too far. Select that file, insert it. Okay, and naturally we could do the same thing for video. So your Moodle page doesn't necessarily just have to have text. It could have embedded images and video. It becomes a lot more interesting. And as I said, this is fairly easy to do. One gotcha here, I guess, with sharing content and media from these third-party sites is compatibility. So you just have to be mindful of file formats. I guess that's the big thing. You know, the internet's a big jungle, and we're on different platforms. We use different browsers. Some of us have those browsers configured in different ways, and we use different versions of plugins, if at all. So you know, it's better to just sort of you know, tread the middle road. As far as compatibility goes, and try and stick with universal formats, file formats, wherever possible, because or else you may end up in a situation where you can see and get files, but some or many of your end users can't. So we'll insert that video as well. So those two things are in, and as I said, you could have text in there as well. Save and display. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, and okay, that video is coming in. It just took a little while to kick in. That's buffering by the look of things. All right, so you can make your pages far more engaging when you can integrate some multimedia. So I'm just returning to the course page now, but you get the idea. You're going to find the file picker and the repository plugins in many places throughout Moodle 2. So I'll turn editing off. I'm going to pause momentarily. For any questions that we might have. Now just keep an eye on the chat window. So this is your chance. Any questions or comments with respect to Moodle repositories? Who's using it currently and perhaps has got an idea or an experience they'd like to share with us in terms of how it's going for them at this point in time? What they make of it. Is it adding value to your online teaching and learning? Good to see you, Stuart. I just noticed you. Hope you're keeping well. Gavin's mentioned that the file system repository is a great place to put course template backups, so it speeds up course deployment. So that's a good point. So file system, so setting up file system repos. So a local area. So I guess you've got the templates or the shells for your courses, kind of with a bit of a skeleton. And you're completely right, it could infinitely speed things up. That's a really creative use of repositories. Stuart likes the idea of a video intro by the teachers on their profile page. No idea why I never thought of it before. Oh, come on, Stuart, you're full of good ideas. And Laurie's mentioning that there's plans to upgrade to Moodle 2 shortly, but the IT department won't allow YouTube, Flickr, and so forth. Not sure about Google Docs. Need to negotiate. Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? As I mentioned there earlier in the piece, that a lot of the organisations for which we work and IT departments in particular are risk averse and very anti or very prohibitive to things that are open, such as social media and some of these cloud-based services like YouTube and Flickr and Facebook. So yeah, we've got to find subtle ways, I guess, to work around those roadblocks, or as you've put it, Laurie, negotiate. We've got to argue a business case and argue that we can add value to education and learning outcomes. Stuart's mentioned Dropbox. It sounds more business-like. Yeah, you've got Dropbox, Boxnet's another for cloud storage and sharing and collaboration. I like Google Docs a lot personally, but they're as much. They're very affordable, and the fact that you can access your content and media from multiplicity of devices as well. You're not bound to your desktop, your laptop. We're talking mobiles and tablet devices as well. And we know Moodle's headed that way as well, as far as theming and accessibility is concerned. Gavin's mentioned that often YouTube is banned, but Vimeo is not. It's a good alternative, and that's true. I mean, there's I believe there is a lot of educational merit in YouTube, but at times it is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And Gavin's completely right. Vimeo does seem more upmarket. Let's put it. It's a little more polished. It's where the real professionals hang out, apparently. Trish, her department refuses any cloud storage at the moment. Maybe one day. And that's fine, if you work for a government department and there's policies around information privacy and data security, and we understand that. Chad, great name, as said before. You're completely right. There is a TeacherTube, teachertube.com. So if you're in a school that's banned YouTube, try TeacherTube. That's probably not on the blacklist. But Vimeo is a good one too. And Laurie's right. I mean, that sometimes that the IT department just doesn't understand what teachers are trying to do. So there's a bit of a disconnect there. There's not really a clear dialogue between the educators and the IT people. So I guess it's a case of us winning them over and all being on the same page. It's a really good conversation. Any other thoughts? Yeah, and Stuart makes a good point that repos are the repository plugins. It's really, it's where the rubber meets the road as far as technology and education are concerned, and IT and teachers do need to speak. Gavin, just clarify what you mean there. Where you're talking about user access and the data itself is harvested. Are you referring to Google Docs and sort of what they do with the information that sits in the service? I guess they're sharing it with us. They're more or less giving away free storage and applications, free in the sense that we give away perhaps personal information to some extent. Is that what you mean? Yeah, you're saying it is free. You are the product. Okay. Shane's completely right that there's this whole thing of prohibition or restriction, banning things such as messaging in schools, but students are often savvy enough to work around it. They do find ways and means. And Shane is completely right. I second that. Better to engage people, encourage them, and promote appropriate use. You can have, let's not be scared of the cloud. Let's tap into it and harness it. But it is all about education, appropriate use, and I think the very least every organisation using Moodle could do with acceptable user guidelines, and we're the advocates. We can model appropriate use and help foster and promote it. And moderate it. Yeah, Gavin's raised a good point there about how Google does scan your files. It is in the terms and conditions, just like Gmail scans your emails. Well, it is pretty scary, but true. And that's why the ads that you see at the top of your Gmail are so bang on, because they kind of relate to the subject matter in your emails. Chad raises a good point that local network restrictions can be bypassed by mobile devices, such as phones and tablets. Trish, from another perspective, working for government, that they can run the risk of a lot of corporate information walking around on USB devices instead, and that's dangerous and perhaps unthinkable for a lot of organisations. Very good. So some good conversations happening, and perhaps give it another minute or two, and I'm mindful of time. We're traveling okay. Is there a plugin for SharePoint? Laura asks. To my knowledge, there used to be for 1.9, Microsoft SharePoint for Moodle. Any updates on that? Does anybody know? Gavin, Stuart, Shane? Very funny, Gavin. The ads are off. Okay. You're being modest there, I think, Gavin. And likewise, Chad, we'll have to catch up at some stage, virtually speaking. Okay, Stuart mentions that Moodle Rooms or Remote Learner, so one of the two, I believe the US-based Moodle partners are building a SharePoint plugin. So I presume you mean for version 2. As I said, I think there was something there for 1.8 or 1.9 a bit back. Shane's he's heard about integrations, yet to see one that works. It is a sign of the times when you've got these commercial players, the Blackboards and the Microsofts of the world looking to play with Moodle, looking to find ways that they can hook in. Gavin's just been offered a 5-day in-house intensive training on fashion styling. I think what you need, Gavin, is one of these, if my video still is coming through, you need one of these Moodle polo shirts, my friend. And don't take things too personally, Gavin, with what Google has to say.
Hi, Chad. I might just jump in. Shane here. Just while we're talking about Gavin's personal life and styling, but just to say thank you for presenting today. Thank you for taking the time out and just sharing that with us. Very much appreciated, and just loving the conversation afterwards as well. So thank you. Okay.
No worries. Thanks, Shane. And that's right. The formalities of the pres are over, and we're just having a bit of a, I guess, a casual, informal chat here. And look, I'd encourage